Welcome into It's Just the Show. I'm your host, Jay Stone, and with me, as always, is Corey Champney.
Hey.
And we're here to hang out with you tonight, and we're going to talk about Atlanta sports. We're going to run through the Braves so far this season. We're dwindling down, getting close to the fall. I crunked my truck this morning, and there were yellow leaves on my hood. I was like, oh, no, it is upon us.
Oh,
The fall has began.
that means the allergies are coming too.
Yes, sir.
The runny noses and the coughs and the scratchy throats.
Oh, yeah, but it also means hoodies are right around the corner, and hoodies are so socially acceptable.
They are. Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about pumpkin spice?
Ugh. I'm not a pumpkin guy. And the spice,
let me tell you something. And my wife knows that pumpkin spice is the bane of my existence. Just because I have a birthday in the fall, everybody assumes that I love that stuff. It's disgusting. It tastes disgusting. It smells disgusting. And overall, it's just disgusting.
It is just disgusting.
And I don't know. But let's talk some Atlanta sports. Well, before we get into that, I have a few questions from listeners.
Yeah, let's bring it. This is all about the fans. Without them, we are nothing.
We have a couple people that we work with that today asked me what. So we've attended sporting events and we've attended games live and in person. Have you ever seen someone get injured at a game?
Yes.
So the question is, what was the worst injury you've ever seen at a game that was, a fan that got injured? Whether it was for like a foul ball or, someone running and falling or whatever it may be.
The first one that comes to my mind, when I was a teenager, I went with some older friends to Turner Field, and there was a kid running down the concrete bleachers, lost his footing, and tried to hold onto the rail. And when he grabbed it as he was falling forward, he didn't have enough strength to stop himself. So now he's spinning left or right in circles and tumbling down. And by the time he got to the bottom, one leg was facing the other way.
Yeah.
And it was gruesome little scene because there was like everybody was helpless. One person tried to grab him and stop him, and it made it worse. And he flopped out of their hands. That's the one that comes to mind the most. I've seen a lot of videos of foul balls that gone wrong, but I've never seen a bad foul ball in person.
Like the guy holding the baby and catching the foul ball in his hand.
Yes.
That's great. For me, it's almost a similar type situation, but it happened to my mom. When I was in the Cub Scouts, they had a Georgia Tech night. So we went to a Georgia Tech game, and it was Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. I still have the ticket stub to it. But my mom was just walking up the bleachers, and she slipped, and she unalived her Achilles tendon.
Ooh.
And, I remember that they had to, help her out and everything, and she was hobbling along on crutches. Ruined the game for me. I didn't get to see the rest of the game, but you know what? It's all right. And I wasn't there for it, but my uncle, my Uncle Greg, he was at Fenway Park, and David Ortiz had a rocket right off his face.
Ooh.
And I know it knocked some teeth out and stuff like that, and I think he got some pretty cool swag from the Red Sox after that, but yeah. Me personally, I've never been injured or seen anything. I've seen some people catch some pretty cool foul balls, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people catch some footballs that were thrown into the crowd and stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it.
I was at a game the other day, and Jorge Soler tried to do what Adam Duvall did and knock down the Coors beer pyramid cans in the outfield. He missed. He was about a row and a half short. But I know that viral of Adam Duvall knocking that can pyramid over went viral. That's impressive. That's major league accuracy. But
well, I got one more question.
Go ahead.
It was two questions. Sorry. The second question is, do you remember your first game ever? Your first baseball game ever, or football game, or whatever it may be? The memory that you have.
Like any game?
Like any game, like really just the one that sticks out the most.
Yeah, that 1996 season, I was 6, and we got to see the Atlanta Braves play the St. Louis Cardinals in Atlanta. Maddox started. Smoltz closed. I don't remember a middle inning pitcher. I remember Andrew Drellins hitting a home run. It was a solo shot. And I remember there were a couple of times we were so high up, there were a couple of times I lost sight of the baseball, and I didn't really have any idea what's going on. I remember that. And then I remember Marta.
Yeah.
That was quite an
that was
experience.
always fun, riding Marta in and then having to walk to the stadium.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we parked just south of Buford and rode Marta in. It's a long ride from there. And I remember not being awake when we got off Marta. My mom had to wake me up to get to the car. And it was quite a different world we lived in 1996, going to a pro sporting event. There were not as many rules.
Well, and there was a lot going on in Atlanta at that time, too.
Absolutely.
The Olympics.
Yes,
that was
sir.
the last. That was the last time the Olympics was held in the United States until
Really
2028 when it's going to be in LA. But mine is actually the same. Like for some reason, I don't really remember that '93 Red Sox game that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a blur. Like I remember the memories of being there, but I don't remember what happened on the field. But my first Braves game was also 1996. And my mom had won free tickets from Fox 97, the oldies rock station.
Yes.
She wrote in about how her son was a big baseball fan, and it was the Braves and the Reds. The seats were awesome. They were on the first baseline. A guy by the name of Jermaine Dye it was his major league debut, and he hit a home run on his first pitch. Now, Jermaine Dye went on to hit like 300 and something odd home runs in his career, won a ring with the White Sox in 2005. But that was his first major league at-bat against the Reds. And he destroyed the ball on the very first pitch he saw. I thought that was the most amazing thing in the world.
That's awesome. I'm almost 100% positive Mark McGwire played in that game, too. The one where I was there at the Braves-Cardinals game in 96.
It must have been later than 96 because he didn't go to the Cardinals till like 97 or 98.
I wouldn't know. That's why I say I want to say, but.
Yeah, because this was in the old stadium in 96.
Turner Field, yeah.
No, this was in Fulton County. In 96. Turner Field opened in 97.
Then it was 97.
Yeah.
Then I was 7.
Okay.
And it was not 96.
See, because Turner Field had all those awesome interactive games that you could go to, like you're facing a major league pitcher and try to hit a home run off of them and all that stuff. Man, I blew through some quarters.
I'm sure.
With that stuff.
I've never been to Fulton County Stadium. That's why I know it had to be 97 then.
Fulton County Stadium was when I've been to a couple old stadiums, but Fulton County Stadium was a dump at that time. You got to think, it was 30-something years old. It was 30 years old, maybe a little older than that. The Braves came in 66, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was old. It was that cookie-cutter, stadium that, a lot of ballparks were.
Just good enough to play ball in.
Yeah.
Get fans inside
But, it's a cool moment, first of his career. And like I said, he went on to have a pretty good career. And I was always a fan of his because of that game.
That leads me into the Atlanta Braves.
Atlanta Braves talk.
Atlanta Braves talk.
The roller coaster 2024 season.
Yes, sir.
I forgot what year we were in. So at the beginning of this year, I think the expectations were high as they could be. They really didn't go out and get anybody. It was.
We thought we had what we needed.
Yeah, it was pretty much addition by subtraction. You got rid of Rosario. They ended up bringing him back. You got rid of a couple other guys who, they pulled off the trash heap in 2023. And Father Time, Charlie Morton came back. You had Strider, who in spring training looked unhittable with that curveball that he was developing. And then you had, of course, Freed, and they went out and got Reynaldo Lopez. And the best pickup of the offseason, Chris Sale, Mr. 13-3 with all those strikeouts. And
the Maserati parked out in front of the single wide.
Yeah. And Charlie Morton just the other night got 2,000 strikeouts.
He sure did.
That's an achievement.
That's what longevity will do for you.
The lineup really didn't need any tweaking, but coming off such a a record-setting offense of last year, it was going to be hard to repeat that. And I think all the Braves fans out there thought that that was going to be the norm. What you don't realize is you got a lot of streaky hitters in this lineup, and just all of them happen to have a good year last year at the same time. And they've been up, they've been down, but when they're up, they're good. When they're down, they're all down together.
Yep.
And it just seems like one guy will heat up, and then like 2 or 3 more will not. And then when they stop hitting, they all stop hitting. You know, Olsen's been up and down. Riley's been up and down. Now, those two have been coming along lately. But I think ever since they went out and got Soler at the trade deadline, it's kind of – they had a little bit of a losing streak after that. But lately it seems like they've – ever since he started hitting, he found his stroke. It just seems like the offense is starting to come together again.
I agree.
And Money Mike returning, you know.
With a big pop in San Francisco. Grand slam, first game back.
I don't know if it was the first pitch or what, but he hung that curveball and destroyed it. I think the pitcher, he was struggling. He, like, walked a bunch of guys. I think he walked, like, the first 4 or 5 batters he faced. And
he walked in a run.
And Mike Harris came up, and the guy was trying to get a curveball over, and he hung it, and Mike Harris – 427 feet into the bay.
Covey Cove.
Yep.
Somebody out there in their kayak has got themselves a souvenir.
Exactly. And see, that's the thing. The injury bug has bit this team hard.
Absolutely.
So Strider goes out, his second start?
First. Very first.
Very first start of the year. He goes out. Fried's been out. Lopez is still out. Apparently, he's going to be coming back soon. The constant is Sale. Sale has, knock on wood, been pretty constant this year. He's had a lot of shoulder and arm issues when he was with the Red Sox, but he's turned it around, and he's having a Cy Young year. Injuries, Acuna's out for the year.
Sorry, you're right. 2 games. Second game.
Okay.
Second game, Strider went down.
Okay.
Acuna almost made it to the All-Star break before he got hurt. I've never been an advocate of sitting guys ever in any sport, but 162 games is a lot on a man or a woman or anybody. 162 anythings is a lot.
Well, I think Acuna's issue is he plays off-season ball, and I think that put a lot of strain, a lot of pressure on that knee. And I think that when he hurt it in the Dominican League this year, I don't think it was fully healed. And I think he was playing hurt. That's why he didn't have the power. That's why when it seemed like he hit a ball out, it would die on the track, or it would just be in the gap or off the wall. He didn't have that power. It was like 2022 all over again, where he had that year where he had to adjust and then blew up, last year. So hopefully he goes out and he rests and comes back completely healed up starting next year. But the good thing about Soler this year is they have him for 2 more years. They have him through 2026. And Ozuna's having a career year, and he has a team option at the end of the year, which the Braves would be dumb not to pick up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because that's going to be the cheapest year on his contract, too.
I tell you what, if I'm Jorge Soler, I don't want to go anywhere unless it's Colorado or Atlanta. Because when that man's in Colorado, all he does is hit bombs. 8 out of the 9 plate appearances he had, it was something ridiculous. It was like 8 out of the 9 last at-bats he had in Colorado, including the previous team, not just with the Braves. It was homers. He just belts it out in Denver.
Yeah.
They can't hold Jorge Soler at Coors Field.
Or he needs to go to Houston, because apparently he hits big bombs in Houston too.
Yeah, and win some World Series too.
Let me ask you this: we're talking Braves, we're talking Atlanta sports. I moved to Georgia when I was in 2nd grade when we lived in Roswell, so I was introduced to the Braves in '93. That was when they're just started to get good. I was living here in '95 when they won the World Series. Went to the World Series parade. But, the Falcons, they were always the Falcons,
Of course.
And then they went on their little run in '98, which we've covered that Super Bowl. Go check that out in episode 3, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Go check that out. We kind of did a deep
No,
dive.
episode 4.
4?
3 is with Kevin Ellison.
Oh, that's right. Episode 4. We did a deep dive into that game, and Jay can tell you about the heartbreak and little Jay Bird over there.
That was my first ever heartbreak, man.
Yeah. Yep. But my question is it nice to see that some of these Atlanta teams, and you can throw the Bulldogs in there because they count, are doing what they're doing now? I mean, the Falcons have gone out. They traded for Matt Judon from the Patriots. They gave up a third-round pick, which is kind of high for a 32-year-old linebacker with injury issues. They signed Justin Simmons to team up with Bates. So you have some dogs at safety now. You have Kirk Cousins. You drafted Penix. You have, some of the guys you went out and got at, receiver. What is it like now? Do you kind of feel spoiled a little bit?
I feel like our coach has just walked up to the microphone and been like, hey, we're going to win now. We don't do rebuilding around here. We don't wait and see what happens. We have our starters. We have our backups in place. This is a well-oiled machine. We're going to go. We're going to win now. I mean, that's what this says to me. You make moves like this, it says we're going to win a Super Bowl, maybe 3. That's what he's saying. I don't know if
they're playing for now.
Yes.
And that's kind of like what the Braves are doing now. The Braves do have still a strong farm system, but the Falcons are playing for now. That's what they're doing. They're playing for this season and next season. They're putting all the cards on the table. Here it is. We have Kirk Cousins for 3 years? 4 years?
4.
And we have his backup in place in Penix, who, when he's ready, we can always get like maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick for Cousins if, need be. Or if Cousins goes down, this guy's going to be ready. The fact is, when Matt Ryan left, and Matt Ryan, shame on you, Atlanta fans, because you didn't appreciate what you had in Matt Ryan. The all-time leading passing leader for the Falcons, all-time. I think he also is their all-time touchdown passing leader. This guy went to the playoffs multiple seasons. He went to a Super Bowl. And yes, he did throw a pick 6 in that Super Bowl, but you guys didn't appreciate what you had. It wasn't Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan did throw some bad picks, but so did Brett Favre. So has Aaron Rodgers. So has Tom Brady. So has all the greats. They have thrown bad picks. But the fact of the matter is, in football, you can lose a game with turnovers, but your defense, you're only as strong as your defense. And I think Matt Ryan is one of the most underappreciated football players to play for a franchise almost his entire career, except for that last year, and get booed and booed and booed. And now he's loved. Now everybody loves Matt Ryan, but it's after his career is over with.
You never know what you got until it's gone.
Exactly. And I just feel like you had a guy who could throw the ball. He was accurate. He could sling it. He, a lot of times he threw it up there on a hope and a prayer, but,
You know how many times he didn't play 16 games?
Once.
Once.
That last year in Indy?
Okay, twice. Yeah.
Didn't he have like
Indy,
a consecutive, how many seasons of 4,000 passing yards? Like 8, 9, something like that?
I don't even know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 straight.
10.
10 straight years of 4,000 passing yards. That's
11 to 22.
That is crazy. That's crazy. And you know what? Yeah, he had weapons to throw the ball to, but you know what?
He was 32 yards away from having 4,000 yards for an 11th season.
That's crazy.
Less than $50, man.
So, see, you never hear that argument brought up for Matt Ryan. What other quarterback throws 10 straight years of 4,000 passing yards? That's over 40,000 yards of passing.
Yep, played every single game.
Yeah. He played, you know how beat up he had to be at the end of the year? How bad he was hurting? Because he played behind some pretty bad offensive lines.
I will say that only 1, 2, 3 times in his career did he throw single-digit interceptions.
Well,
seasons.
Look at Brett Favre.
Yeah, look at him. Look at him now.
Yeah.
Well, he's having a rough go at it.
Yeah.
He's made some bad decisions.
But what I'm saying is, yeah, you're going to make bad decisions, but you know what? He was that guy that's like, I'm going to throw it up there, and I'm either going to win this game or I'm going to lose this game. But you know what? That's what the grades do. But look at the record. Look at the Falcons' record when he was a quarterback, when he was leading them.
Yep.
And yeah, everybody's going to say he had Julio Jones and Tony Gonzalez and guys like that to throw the ball to. But you know what? You have to have great players around you. But you know what? Great quarterbacks make players even greater. And as talented as Julio Jones is, Julio Jones tell you all day long, someone has to get the ball to him.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't think they realize and the Falcons didn't have a plan in place. They were ready to get rid of Matt Ryan so fast that they didn't have a plan in place. They had Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I mean, that was a travesty. Everything that happened after Matt Ryan was a lesson to the organization that you don't just take a generational talent when you don't want to start him anymore and then do away with him. You work something out where he can have a mentorship program and a long-standing relationship with the team and continue to collect a paycheck, be a good backup, be a good mentor, and build the future. He threw 59,000 yards for our team. Are you kidding me?
How many?
He threw 360 touchdowns for us.
360. That's incredible.
381 minus 14. 350.
Yeah.
350. Give one or two.
Whatever. That's 350 more touchdowns I've thrown for the Falcons.
Same.
That's 350 more than Kirk Cousins is throwing for the Falcons right now.
That's true. But, here's the thing that Falcons fans, for whatever reason, don't remember. He also got sacked 450 times.
Yeah.
Exactly 450.
He played with some bad offensive lines, which is weird because people think of the Falcons as a run-first team. That wasn't until later on.
Yes.
When he first came into the league under Mike Smith, he played under some bad O-lines. He had to get the ball out quick, and that was a lot of the reason why he had a lot of interceptions. But he grew as a quarterback. I mean, it's hard to believe. This guy was an MVP in 2016. He was Offensive Player of the Year in 2016. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2008. 4-time Pro Bowler. He was the NFL completion percentage leader in 2012. He also won the Manning Award in 2007, the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award in 2007. He was an ACC Player of the Year at Boston College.
Absolutely.
He was a first-team All-American. Boston College retired his number 12. But he was a 4-time Pro Bowler, NFL passer rating leader in 2016. Yeah, it's incredible.
In 2018, he had one catch for 5 yards and a touchdown. Never forget.
And he almost had over 200 touchdowns compared to interceptions, 381 to 183. So, yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions, but it's still almost 200 difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that is that's crazy. His passer rating is 93.6 in his career.
It is impressive.
Let me I'm interested in Brett Favre.
I mean, Matt Ryan had a career completion percentage of 65.6.
Brett Favre had 336 interceptions.
And he had like 340 touchdowns?
508.
Okay, so he did make some magic.
So, but his passer rating for his career is 86. So, I mean, and yeah, he did play longer, but he didn't throw that many more yards than Matt Ryan.
For comparison, Tom Brady's career completion percentage is 64.3. Matt Ryan's is 65.6.
Yeah. So, I mean, he is – you don't realize what you have. And I was saying that the whole time he was in Atlanta. I was like, you guys dog probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league at the time.
Easily.
I mean, it was Brady, Rodgers, Manning, Ryan, and maybe Phillip Rivers as your top passers, and maybe throw Stafford in there too at that time. And he was so underappreciated. Now in the NFC, he was probably the top quarterback because the AFC was loaded with Brady and Manning, and it was just him and Rodgers pretty much in the NFC and Stafford. That was your three-headed gunslinger
Absolutely.
monster, and and they just don't appreciate it. And Kirk Cousins, as great as he is, he's not a gunslinging quarterback. He's an accurate quarterback. He's going to make some plays, but he is not I'm going to throw it 50 yards down the field like Matt Ryan was. And it's sad because now all these Falcons fans want to go back and say, "Oh, Matt Ryan was our quarterback. He was a great quarterback." Man, where were you during his career?
At home on the couch because Atlanta Falcons fans couldn't afford tickets until Arthur Blank took over.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I've been to Falcons games growing up. Even when they were in the Dome, you couldn't afford tickets. And if you did, it sounded like we were in an away game.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like the 2018 SEC championship. I think it was the 2018 SEC championship against Alabama. No, it couldn't have been. It was late, more recent. Anyway, my mom and I went. It was Georgia, Alabama, the Mercedes-Benz. Who cares what year? And the Georgia fans were like at home in their recliners. It was like, guys, we have to make the noise that you hear on TV. It's your job to do it because you're here. And they just look at you like, why are you so loud?
Yeah.
I hate that.
And it's...
If you make tickets that expensive, that's what kind of crowd you're going to get, and it's not good for football.
And see, the best cities that have the best teams, like you look at Boston, Red Sox fans are everywhere. No matter who they're playing, you could go to a stadium where they're playing away, and you're going to see Red Sox fans.
Absolutely.
When the Patriots were at their height, maybe not now, but when the Patriots are at their height, wherever they played, Patriot fans were there. Same thing with Yankee fans. They're everywhere. Mets fans, everywhere. Phillies fans, everywhere. All these top teams that are loyal to their city and loyal to their teams, you're going to find them everywhere. The reason why the Braves have such big fan base is based off of TBS.
Yep.
Back in the day, everybody became a Braves fan.
TV deals.
But the Falcons, for whatever reason, it's not transitioning over to football. I don't think the Atlanta base has ever really appreciated the Falcons. And a lot of times maybe it was because of the horrible product that they were getting on the field. But the last 15, 20 years, I mean, if they haven't been in the playoffs, they've been contenders.
There is a big reason there are not a lot of professional football stadiums in the South that are successful because there aren't many. They needed to be closer to rural areas to be successful. Don't believe that the travel hub of the United States and Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport appreciates it very much when there is either Falcons, Hawks, or Braves game going on all at the same time, or even Georgia Tech.
And Hartsfield-Jackson is the connection hub. It's Delta's hub, and everybody goes there to connect their flight. They don't, and it's hard to get athletes to come to a Georgia team. For whatever reason, they don't want to come to the Hawks. They don't want to come to the Falcons. The Braves seem not to have any problems with it, but all these athletes will live in Georgia, but they don't want to play for the Georgia teams, the Georgia-based teams. I think another thing is the South is so college football heavy and oriented that because a lot of these colleges in the South are located in rural areas. They're not in big metropolises like in Atlanta. Or, there are some in Memphis and Nashville, but a lot of these colleges are way out there, like Wake Forest is way out there. Clemson is not a big city. It's a college town.
Right. Athens, same thing.
Georgia Tech is in Atlanta, but it's,
it's not the same. It's not the same atmosphere as Athens.
We talked to Kevin Ellison. I mean, his, Statesboro, and even like you go to Gainesville, Florida, or Tallahassee and places like that, they're smaller towns. They're not these big metropolises, but people fall in love with college football because it's such a way of life down here in the South. And for whatever reason, the NFL just does not resonate. I know the Panthers have had an issue with this, even when they had Cam Newton. The only team in the South I think that does really well is the Saints.
I agree 100%.
The Saints have always...
And the Dolphins. Yeah. But I feel like the Dolphins fans are from other parts of the world where they take stadium fandom seriously, like they're football hooligans and stuff.
But you got to think about it. The Miami Dolphins, their history's so rich. You know, they had that undefeated team. They had Marino, and talk about an underappreciated quarterback.
Right.
But it's and not only that, Florida is the Yankee state of the South too. If you want to look at it, everybody comes down to Florida. I think that's why the NFL teams in Florida always do a little bit better than anywhere else. Like the Buccaneers are always selling out their games before they had Tom Brady. The Dolphins have always done really, really well, but for whatever reason, baseball doesn't do that well in Florida. It's weird. But
only in the springtime.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think a lot of it is college football. Everybody is so, and you have to think before the '60s, there really wasn't a team in the South other than there wasn't a team in the South. The Falcons and the Saints were the first two teams in the South. You didn't have a team in Tennessee. You didn't have a team in New Orleans. You didn't have a team in Georgia. You didn't have a team in the Carolinas. You didn't have any of that. You had all these college teams that were in those states. The SEC was, running wild back then. And I think a lot of that loyalty carried over from generation to generation, and that's why we don't see the love for the Falcons like you would the love for the Bulldogs, or the love for, Clemson or wherever.
Here's my experience. Growing up, you have more grace with kids, with young men, people that are learning in life. With adults, you hear phrases down here like, they ought to know better. They're done grown. They've done lived life. They've done made it through their 20s. They better be making better decisions with that. They're millionaires. All they got to do is play football. So I feel like when you're a diehard Dogs fan, whether it's your son, somebody else's son, or you're just rooting for the fandom and the Georgia Bulldogs in an entirety, when they lose, when and if they lose, you give them more grace because they're children in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. However, the Falcons have been bad for a long time, and we're paying our cable bill to see a good football team. Why would we even want to go to a game when they always lose?
These guys are making millions of dollars to do what? To be horrible?
Yep.
But
in the time frame that Matt Ryan was playing, you couldn't afford a ticket.
Yeah, because they were so good.
Yep.
The thing is, what I love about living in this state is from September to January, everything is red. You see these people with the Bulldog flags out everywhere. Everybody's wearing their hats. It's like a disease, but a disease you want to catch. You know,
Go Dogs.
Yeah, it's crazy, and like you go to other places that are not as strong with college football, like up north. You'll see a lot of, like, for instance, I'm going to use Boston as an example. Like in the fall, you see Patriot stuff everywhere, whether they're good or bad. You're going to see Patriot stuff everywhere.
Oh yes,
because Boston College, it's not as big, it's not as popular as, let's say, compared to even Georgia Tech.
Sorry, Uncle Chris. We'll once we get a little more in depth and we got some more free time to get Boston College knowledge, we'll start bringing some Boston College ball in. Shout out, Uncle Chris.
I will say that one of the greatest Hail Marys of all time took place in Boston College when Doug Flutie threw up that prayer and beat that juggernaut Miami team. Little Doug Flutie running around with that jersey that looked like it was hanging off him, like he was wearing like his dad's jersey or something, like a little kid.
Yep.
And
classic.
Ran for his life and threw it up there. And but the funny thing about that Hail Mary, if you watch the video, he has the guy that's going out wide open, and he didn't even see him. He said years later he went back and watched that. He was like, man, I had the guy wide open on the other end of the end zone, but everybody's bunched in to the right where the ball went, and his roommate was the wide receiver that ended up catching it. But he said, I had another guy way over here that was wide open. But,
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, but in a game like that, you're not going, you can't see it. You're just going to.
1 in a million.
And you're talking about that happened in 84. So in 84, that was, the start of that Miami dynasty. They had won the national title in 83. So this was this was the first year of Jimmy Johnson coaching the Miami Hurricanes, and that is probably the most memorable Boston College moment of all time.
This is the era of the Catholics versus the convicts.
That's right, Catholics versus convicts. Yes,
that's a great ESPN special. I love that.
I remember the T-shirts that people had. I saw them even as a kid in the '90s. Catholics versus convicts.
That's good stuff. They're starting to make a comeback.
Oh yeah,
that rivalry.
The NIL. Miami has used their NIL money very well, and they're going to be a good. I think they're going to be a good team this year.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they're one of the more underrated teams. I saw something scrolling through ESPN. Mel Kiper, maybe. I'm not really sure who I should quote on that one. I'm going to back up and punt. But somebody was talking about that Miami is quite possibly one of the most underrated top 25 teams in all of college football because they're just stacked with talent.
I like their coach, Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, he got galled.
He started out on these lower tier teams that were horrible, and that's where he really put his coaching expertise to use as a head coach. And then but he's been on some other staffs and stuff. But he's a younger guy that can resonate with those kids, and he's trying to make Miami a place to play again. They haven't been relevant since the early 2000s. They've just been kind of teetering there. And it was good to see Florida State kind of go on the run that they went on last year and the year before that. They got destroyed by Georgia, but they had a lot of players that were injured and sat out because, they wanted to make that NFL money. They didn't want to get hurt. But yeah, it's going to be good to see them come back and play. So.
The Atlanta United Football Club, I want to talk about them for a second. We haven't really touched on them, but they are on our logo, so I think I'll give it a whirl here. The team was founded in 2014, and they began application for expansion. In 2017 was their first season at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 2018, they win the MLS Cup. No big deal. So let's just go ahead and sit the ceiling through the sky there. In their second season, Atlanta finished second in the Eastern Conference. The team beat the Portland Timbers, bringing the city of Atlanta its first major sports championship since the Braves had won one in 1995. So this was a big deal for sports fans in the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta, because as a city, we had not won any type of championship with sports since 95. So 95 to 2018, Atlanta United, I believe, if you're a real sports fan, you understand Atlanta United broke the curse. They finally are the ones that laid down the law and said, we're done with this. We're not going to be around for 40 years before we make it to a championship game and embarrass ourselves on national TV. Second season in, the Atlanta United Football Club goes into the MLS Cup and knocks off the Portland Timbers for their first MLS Cup.
Has that ever happened before with an expansion team at any sport where, their first, 2 or 3 years in, they win?
Baltimore Ravens.
Wait a minute. The Las Vegas hockey team, the Knights.
The Golden Knights went their first season, but they lost.
Okay.
I'm positive because I was there. I was in Las Vegas for the Golden Knights run the first year doing an Amazon gig, and that was the year they created the jersey to go on the Statue of Liberty at the roller coaster at New York, and downtown Las Vegas. That was pretty cool. Yeah, okay. Like I was saying, the Vegas Golden Knights in 2018, their very first season, broke an NHL record for the most playoff wins for a first-year team. They won 13 playoff games en route to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they did not win. And then 2023, they made it back and won the title against the Florida Panthers, which this year the Florida Panthers made it back to the Stanley Cup to win the Stanley Cup in 2024. Shout out Uncle Dave. Brother Dave. Brother Dave works for the Florida Panthers. Seen you on Facebook with your big logo in the back window representing, man. Congratulations. Nothing like bringing a title home.
That's crazy that a soccer team can come in. And let me tell you something. I've never been to those games, but I hear that they're packed full of people.
Oh, yes. The soccer fans have wanted something to cheer for in the South for a long time, and there's not a lot of places to go catch soccer. When I was in high school, the soccer teams for the high school, we went to Legion Field in Alabama to watch the United States women's soccer team play the Australian women's soccer team in a friendly matchup, and it was excellent. There was hardly anybody there, unfortunately, but the match was great.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot.
When you get an expansion team, you always think that, oh man, we're gonna be bad for so long. It's gonna be so long before we can. Well, for whatever reason, the Marlins figured it out. The D-backs figured it out. The Las Vegas Knights figured it out. I mean, teams can figure it out. Atlanta United figured it out.
Yes.
What they brought, they were the first team to win a championship since 1995, right? The first professional team since
in Atlanta, yes.
In Atlanta. So they started this whole winning thing, like you said. And then it was the Bulldogs, and then it was the Braves. The Braves and the Bulldogs winning, crunching all that together. The Bulldogs going back-to-back and the Braves in 21. But since then, it's just been crazy. And I think even the Hawks went on a run where they made the Eastern Conference Finals, too. Yep. When was that, 18?
Yeah, and they lost to Giannis.
Yeah.
On his way to a title.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all been, right there. And
we were so close the last few years, but I think Atlanta United's the one that really came home and put the stake in the ground, and was like, you know what, we're here. We've been losers for too long.
They definitely started it, and they put the end of the stigma of Atlanta can get there, they just can't finish. You can dance with the big boys, but you can never, close the deal. And that's been the stigma of Atlanta. But the last couple of years, they've, these Georgia teams have been saying, hey, wait, not so fast. Here we are again.
Exactly. And the Baltimore Ravens also, 96 was the inception. 2000, they were in the Super Bowl.
Oh, with that nasty defense.
Ray Lewis, Ed Reed.
I think they shut the Giants out.
Let's see.
They shut them out in that Super Bowl that they won with Trent Dilfer as a quarterback.
Almost shut them out, 34-7.
Oh, they probably gave up some junk time touchdown or something. But Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, for crying out loud.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, granted, you had Ray Lewis who, unalived some people.
Yes, allegedly.
On and off the field. And then you had, Ed Reed. You had they had another guy,
Rod Woodson.
Who's the running back that was so good with him? Was it Jamal Lewis? Yeah, Jamal Lewis, yes. He was a beast. You had
he hadn't quite got, I think he was very young in his career at the time.
Was that Priest Holmes? Was on that team?
Jamal Lewis was in the 2000 draft.
Okay, so he was.
That was their first pick. Their first round, 5th pick, Jamal Lewis out of the University of Tennessee.
So Priest Holmes must have still been with that team.
Must have been. I'm trying to skim through the facts real quick and get you down there. Where are they?
Because, Tony Banks started as their starting quarterback that year, and he got hurt, and they brought in another guy, and then he got hurt, and then Trent Dilfer came in.
Final roster. Running backs. Chuck Evans, Priest Holmes.
Yeah, Priest Holmes.
Jamal Lewis was there, so this was his rookie year.
Yeah, so you had Jamal Lewis and Priest Holmes as your running backs.
Mm-hmm.
All you needed was a game-managing quarterback, and that's what you got.
Yep, because if it wasn't Trent Dilfer, it was going to be Tony Banks or Chris Redmond. And who is that guy?
Chris Redmond was a former Falcon. He was a backup for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tony Banks was just a journeyman.
Trent Dilfer was the Football Digest Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah,
just for the record.
He started his career
swallowing really loud.
Sorry. He started his career with the Bucks.
Yep.
And another team that had a good defense. He was a first-round draft pick, Trent Dilfer.
35 minutes ago, the Atlanta Braves manager Brian Snitker had a positive update on Jorge Solaire's hamstring injury.
Yeah, apparently he tweaked it a little bit, but they believe that he'll be all right after some rest.
His day-to-day, he'll stay on the trip. Did you hear that the main guy that plays Blooper is also on the IL? He is injured, hurt himself.
No.
We got the backup in the mascot, bro. That's how it's going right now. We're second in the division in Atlanta right now. Somehow, 6.5 games back from Philly, still in the wild card hunt, and we've got more players hurt than we have on the team, it feels like. It seems like, oh, man, Alex Anthopoulos made another good move. We picked up somebody who's going to help us. Soler has a few games where he's just real lackadaisical. I even went to one, and he wasn't even gunning the ball in from the outfield. If he couldn't get the play close, it was like he just tossed it. And there were chants, and I was one of them screaming MVP. It was kind of, wake up, man. We like you. We never wanted you to leave in the first place. The fans appreciate Jorge Soler, the 2021 World Series MVP. And it's like when the road trip started, he was like, oh, yeah, I play baseball. And it's, oh, yeah, now we got some momentum. Bam, hurt. It's the baseball gods are just really toying with my emotions this season.
It's it definitely has a lot of 2021 feel to it. If I could compare it to anything, do you hear this? What Major League Baseball is trying to do? I saw this pop up today on ESPN and Major League Baseball. What they're considering to do now?
Hit me.
So Major League Baseball is toying with the idea of a 6-inning minimum for pitchers, where they have to pitch 6 innings before you can take them out of a game if they start the game.
Oh no!
They want to do away with this with bullpen games
because they take too long.
And they think that if a pitcher stays in for 6 innings, it's going to help the offense and stuff like that. But you're going to have more arm injuries.
Yep.
You're going to have guys that are going to be blowing up. It's something that they're trying to do now. It says that, they've already tweaked with the stolen base rule and everything. Now they're looking into this 6-inning rule for Major League Baseball. So here it is. It says MLB reportedly weighing 6-inning requirement for starting pitchers. And it says, it just goes into, so the report indicates that the exceptions to the proposed 6-inning minimum could include throwing 100 pitches, giving up 4 or more earned runs, getting injured with a required injured list stint to avoid manipulation. So they said, don't expect this to happen anytime soon. MLB isn't yet to the stage where it would be testing the mandate in the minors or even independent leagues. So it's just something they're discussing. But it sounds like that if a pitcher gets up to 100 pitches before the 6 innings, they can take him out. Or if they give up 4 or more runs, they could take him out. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut down on, they're trying to cut down on bullpen usage and trying to save up all these arms and everything.
Shout out to Dr. Jennifer Halford in Demers, Georgia. If you're looking for a nurse practitioner, Dr. Garrett's Family Medicine, you got to get on a waiting list, but they're a great establishment. We were talking the other day, I had to go get some cough medicine, and it was probably a 5-minute checkup turned into a 15-minute appointment, and we talked Braves baseball the whole time. It was awesome. We were talking about how you really can't get into Alex Anthopoulos' mind. It's like he seems like he's sentimental. You get Soler back. You get Jesse Chavez early in the season. We go get some familiar parts that help us deal with these injuries, and then you go and do something like get Luke Jackson back.
Oh, gosh.
Like, he's notorious for losing at home. What did you want to do, like tap us in between the legs as we walk by, like right on the head of the Netherlands there in the danglers?
Yeah.
That's all that was, like a love tap?
AA wanted to hit us in the danglers hard.
Yeah, why go get Luke? Leave him where he's at.
So this guy is not Luke Skywalker.
At all.
You know when I say how the Atlanta fans hated Matt Ryan?
Yep.
We need to hate this guy.
Yeah. I don't understand why it's not clear.
This guy is a home run machine, a run giving up machine. I was so happy when they got rid of this guy in 22. Like, I literally would do a happy dance. Why'd we bring? I guarantee you, San Francisco threw him in on that Soler trade to get rid of him.
Oh man, I
Just to
wouldn't
get rid
doubt
of
it.
him.
I would not doubt it.
But let's cut ties. Let's just DFA this dude.
Yeah, I feel like after 7, 8 bad outings, and you don't have support from the team, you don't have support from the fan base, you're losing. It's not that you're losing; it's how you're losing. It's in pressure situations. It's in 1-run games. It's in 0-0 games.
Yeah.
You're giving up 4 or 5 runs, a deficit. The situations that Jackson puts the offense in is ridiculous. And if we were to have him, and MLB does switch this rule change where he's got to do a minimum of 6 innings, that's going to be a nightmare. We're going to lose 20-0.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not going to start a game.
You hope not. But
Well,
the way the injury bug has ran rampant.
let me say this. I will say that there are some MVPs on this Braves team.
Yes.
Luke Jackson's not one of them.
No.
But I will say that Marcell Ozuna.
Absolutely.
I will say that Chris Sale.
Yeah. Hands down.
Even Iglesias has been great coming in, shutting the door.
Yeah, Raul.
I will
absolutely.
say that there's 2 guys that I think have been under the radar. Was it Schellenbach?
Yeah. Schwellenbach.
Schwellenbach. He's been getting better and better with every start, and he turns out it looks like he's going to be a strikeout machine too.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Strider are the future of this rotation.
Yeah, we
And
just got to keep Strider healthy.
And then the guy that spent 10 years, or was it 8 years or something like that in the minor leagues, in the Dodger system, in the Brave system, Grant Holmes.
No, yeah, Grant Holmes looks great.
This guy has been holding it down while Ronaldo Lopez has been out. And Ronaldo Lopez is probably coming back at the end of the month, I believe they said.
Mm-hmm.
But Ronaldo Lopez is another guy that he used to be a starter, flamed out. They put him in the bullpen, resurrected his career in the bullpen with a couple of teams, came to Atlanta and just got that Atlanta juice rubbed all over him, which I want Atlanta juice rubbed all over me if it's going to make me a star pitcher.
Giggity.
Hashtag Atlanta juice. But I would say if we're gonna say who the MVPs are of this team, it's Marcell Ozuna and Chris Sale.
Yeah, I think that's as far as the list goes. No one else has been as consistent as those guys. Ozuna, if he's not hitting home runs, he's still putting it in play. He's got impressive on base percentage. He has a very high number of RBIs. He's slowed down on the homers. He's like 35, 36, maybe not even that high.
He's still going to be close to 50 by the time the season's over.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've forgiven the Big Bear for his transgressions a few years ago.
And they're going to
and that'll never be okay, but he's forgiven.
They're going to pick up his option at the end of the year. I believe so.
I would hope so. You don't get a guy, he's 33 years old. He'll be 34 November 12th this year. He's my age.
Pick up the option for next year, and if he's even like if he's a 30 home run guy next year, that's great. You don't have to re-sign him at 35. You let him walk. But pick up that team option, because next year, you know what their lineup's going to look like next year? You're going to have Acuna, you're going to have Soler, and you're going to have Ozuna in that lineup, and you're going to have Kelnick. You're going to have Albies returning, who's actually Albies going to come back in September. You're going to have Riley. You're going to have Olsen. You're going to have Murphy Darno again. And Murphy's having an off year. I think he'll bounce back next year with more consistency and more playing time. I think the lack of playing time hurts Murphy more than it does Darno. I think Darno gets that rest and he comes in and he plays really well. And then when he starts playing bad, you sit him and play Murphy. And then after about 4 or 5 days of rest, you put Darno back in and boom, he's hitting the ball again. The only question I have is I don't like Orlando Arcia's streakiness as shortstop. It's up and down. Like the last month he's been hot.
Yes, he has.
But I love his glove. He plays a really good defense, but I feel like they need another guy, a guy that can rest him every once in a while. And I feel like with Whit Merrifield, who can play multiple positions, I think they have that guy. And that guy's been hitting since he came to Atlanta. He has a 250 batting average, and he has speed. And Soler is, getting that average up with Atlanta. He's like 240-something. But the one guy been hitting almost 300 since he came to Atlanta. He came to Atlanta with a 189 batting average. Ramon Laureano. He's been hitting 285 since he came to Atlanta. So, and yeah, he made a few errors and stuff, but he's also made a few great throws from the outfield, throwing guys out at home. He's really stepped it up. So that's been a pretty good pickup.
Absolutely. Marcel's moving in on one of his best seasons of his career. His best season ever at this point was 2017 when he's in Miami. Played 159 games, 124 RBIs, 37 home runs. But we can't forget that last year Marcel had 100 RBIs. He had 40 home runs, 29 doubles. At the end of the season, he had those numbers. Right now, he's got 90 RBIs, 35 home runs, 23 doubles. It's most likely, and 135 hits. So he's only 10 hits fewer right now than he did the entire season last year.
You have to remember, too, he got off such a horrible start last year. That was all coming on late in the season. You know, guys got hurt, and he stepped up, you know. But you know, in that 2017 Marlins, do you know who was batting in front of, or behind him, why he got so many good pitches to hit? Giancarlo Stanton was on that team. You had Marcell Ozuna and Stanton in the same outfield on the same team.
Marcell Ozuna finished in the top 20 in MVP voting last year. I did not know that.
I mean,
he was an all-star this year. And then the 2020 season, Marcell was 6th place in all-star voting and had a Silver Slugger award.
Because he was a monster in 2020 for that shortened season. I mean,
he only played that 60-game season. He had 267 plate appearances. My goodness. 18 home runs, 14 doubles, 77 hits, 56 RBIs.
Was that the year where they yeah, it was, because no one was in the stadium. They scored 30 runs on the Marlins.
26-7 or something. It was a football score.
Yeah, I thought it was like 30 runs.
It's close. I don't think we got to 30.
Maybe it was 29 or 28.
It's somewhere between 26 and 29. I feel confident. So this year, he has now played just as many years with Atlanta as he has Miami. Marcell Ozuna, the Big Bear.
29-9.
29-9.
29-9. That was that
freaking football score.
That was in 2020. George, one last thought on Georgia sports. Coming from Boston and coming from a place where we didn't really have winners all that often until recently, because now Boston seems to win it everything. Or they had they went on a nice little 20, 25-year run. Before that, it was horrible. It was horrible being a fan from Boston. You know, it was a lot of heartbreak. Don't give up on your teams. Appreciate what you have, because sports is a roller coaster. It's up and a down. And very rarely are teams going to dominate like the Yankees, you know, where they're going to be good for a long, long time. So love your teams, appreciate them, and defend them at all costs, because they are out there for you. They want you to root for them. They want you to cheer for them. They want your money, yes, but have some pride in where you're from and where you live. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it, and we appreciate all of you out there. Just a reminder, we're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. YouTube does have some video. Episode 3 with Kevin Ellison has the full interview with highlights and stuff like that. We appreciate you guys listening tonight.
I'd also like to say one final thought. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask us, post it on social media. We'll answer it. If it's not a ridiculous question, of course, but we will answer it. But yes, I believe that this has been a great talk about Atlanta sports.
That'll wrap it up. Shout out Deion Sanders. Peace out, y'all.